So, when is the last time you woke up and felt rested? Not just functional, not just relying on caffeine, but truly felt ready to take on the day. If you cannot remember, that is not normal. There are many reasons why you're feeling so exhausted, and it's not just because you're not getting enough sleep. In the next few minutes, I'm going to talk about the top 5 reasons you are feeling exhausted. And by the end of this, you will know exactly what to do. Have you tried getting more sleep, taking a supplement, you stop drinking alcohol, and you're doing all the things, and you're thinking, man, is this what life looks like now? And is this normal? I'm Cheryl Lemoyne, nurse practitioner with 28 years in medicine, and I have treated over 10,000 patients in my private practice. And exhaustion is truly the most common reason I am seeing patients. And quite honestly, we do some tests, and the answer is right in front of us. I'm going to show you the top 5 reasons why you might be feeling exhausted, and you'll be surprised that a lot of the reasons don't show up in the basic lab panel. You need to know what to ask for. Your fatigue is not a sleep problem. It is a hormone problem. So as we age, we start to lose estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. So these hormones help cellular function, transmitter function in all of our cells. And we have to look at the cause of each one and how it's affecting our energy. When we're talking about estrogen and those levels starting to decline, we see it affect the mitochondria of our cells. This is the energy little factories of our cells. So less estrogen, the less energy production our cells are making. With lower testosterone levels, this is affecting our drive, motivation, and stamina. Add on declining progesterone, and this is allowing our nervous systems to not downregulate and slow down. So as you can see, these hormones are directly affecting our overall fatigue and exhaustion. You're not lazy. Your cells are slowly running out of fuel. And so we need to look at hormone levels in consideration of why you feel so fatigued. When women come into my office, the most common complaint is chronic fatigue. And when we're looking at these 3 hormones, if we find 2 of the 3 are depleted, that is a clear sign that this could be one of the many layers that shows and gives reason for exhaustion and fatigue. Think of your hormones as the electrical wiring in the house. All the light switches are on, everything is plugged in, but you keep seeing things flutter on and off. Those appliances turn on and off. Those lights might flicker. And this is the circuit breaker. It is not acting correctly. And this is what's happening to those hormones. They are depleting, causing cellular dysfunction. If your fatigue has started in your 30s and 40s, and now you're noticing brain fog, irritability, low libido, sleep issues, then we have to assume that if you've got multiple symptoms on top of fatigue, we need to consider hormone depletion. But hormones are not the only reason. And the next reason is something doctors often don't check, but is a big game player. So vitamin D is specifically related to our energy levels. As we know, vitamin D is a vitamin as well as a hormone, and is specifically responsible for immunity, bone health, brain health, and overall energy. I often see in my office women coming in with significantly low levels of vitamin D. The normal range is 30 to 100. So when you go to your provider and they check a level, they might consider somewhere in the 30s normal. However, you might be directly affected by that level. 30 is not enough. We want to see that vitamin D over 50. By optimizing vitamin D, your energy will automatically increase, and we are protecting you against cancers, giving you more energy, better bone health, and better brain health. And overall, you've got to consider this and look at that number. Most women that I test vitamin D are so low, they're actually in the same category as rickets, and they have such high risks for immunity and even cancer. Living in the Pacific Northwest, I do see prominent low vitamin Ds. Probably 8 or 9 out of every 10 patients I see are not even lower on the normal range, but even below that average normal level. So, by optimizing vitamin D, it's the quickest and easiest way to give back my patients some of that energy with overall health protection. Imagine you're trying to grow a garden in the shade. You are watering it and you're giving it all the nutrients, but you're just not making any progress. This is correlates to our vitamin D. We cannot grow and we cannot flourish without vitamin D. So do not just ask your provider to run a vitamin D level on you. You want to know exactly what your number is. Again, an average normal range per the blood work is 30 to 100. Anything under 50 should, number one, automatically be treated with supplementation. And then we have to think the higher your vitamin D level is, the better protection you have against cancers, immunity, brain protection, and bone protection. So make sure your provider is willing to not only run a test, but tell you your number. Okay, so here's where it gets interesting. Let's say your hormones are optimized and your vitamin D is at a great range and you're still feeling fatigued. Well, here is one most common reason that is exploding right now that we really need to shed attention on. Okay, so if you're sitting here and thinking this makes a lot of sense and you're connecting the dots, make sure you hit subscribe. You don't want to miss the next video. Your energy is worth fighting for. Insulin resistance is quietly stealing your energy, and this is a big topic. So you don't have to be diabetic to be insulin resistant. If you're hitting a wall about 3 p.m. every day or craving sugar later in the day, this could be a sign. So insulin resistance is when your body stops responding to insulin efficiently. So what happens is you have glucose floating around in your body and it's not getting into the cell. You need insulin to allow the glucose to get into the cell and feed the cells so everything can thrive. So that glucose is floating around, your body responds thinking it needs more insulin, so it spits out more and more and more. And after a while, your body stops responding. That is insulin resistance. Most providers are running labs to include a hemoglobin A1C, which is looking for elevated blood sugars. But quite honestly, you can be developing insulin resistance years before that elevated A1C shows a change. So recently, I had a patient. He is a 56-year-old male. He's a pilot. And he is living the life. He's married, his children are grown, he's able to work and travel and really enjoy life overall. And I've got to know him and his wife very closely. He came in to me for hormone optimization, and as I had seen him over a period of time, we noticed that his blood pressure was creeping up. He had put on some weight because they were traveling and enjoying all the great food and wines around the world. And we decided to do additional blood work and check his lipid panel. So here we have a 56-year-old male, elevated blood pressure. He has now elevated lipid panel to include triglycerides in the 580s, cholesterol almost at 300, and carrying about 40 extra pounds. Now his A1C was slightly elevated in that pre-diabetic range at 5.9. And his insulin level, fasting insulin level, was significantly elevated. So what did he do? Well, he took it into his own hands. He did not want to start medication. He really wanted to make these changes on his own. So he became more active. He changed his diet. We continued to optimize his hormones. And in a matter of 4 months, he came back. He had lost that 40 pounds. His triglyceride normalized. His blood pressure had normalized, and actually he was on medication and came off. And his insulin levels had completely come back down to a normal range. Now, on part of his workouts, instead of just walking, he added weight-resistant training. Why does this matter? More muscle equals less insulin resistance. I tell patients, you don't have to be a bodybuilder, but the muscles you have to be dense and working for you. More dense muscle, less insulin resistance, higher metabolism, and then the cascade of losing weight and watching the cells function as they should. So here's some signs of insulin resistance. Do you have a little extra weight around that midsection? Are you hitting the wall around 3 p.m.? Do you crave sugar? Are you just generally fatigued? These are some very big red flags, and you have to stop and pause thinking, where is my muscle mass and where is my insulin levels and glucose metabolism? So if you said yes to 2 or 3 of these symptoms, you should have some blood work done. Now, an A1C, again, test your average blood sugar for the last 90 days, and you can have elevated insulin levels long before you show elevated A1Cs. But there is one more reason for your fatigue, and this is quite often missed by a lot of doctors that are just looking at one blood test. Your thyroid function is probably being tested wrong. So when you go to your provider, and we have all done it, and think, oh, maybe I've got a thyroid issue. You've got the fatigue, the constipation, the dry skin, sometimes feeling down or depressed. And what does your provider do? They order a TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. They look at this, they call it normal, and they send you out the door. What they're looking at is actually the TSH is a signal from your brain trying to communicate to your thyroid. It is not a direct relation to how your thyroid is functioning. More importantly, you need a comprehensive thyroid panel to include the TSH, T4, T3, and the antibodies. This gives a bigger picture of how well overall your thyroid is functioning. Specifically, your T3. This is the active thyroid that's converted from T4 to T3 for your body to use. That range typically is 2 to 4 on blood work. So if you're running in the twos and symptomatic, you might be somebody that needs just a little bit of optimization to get from a 2 to a 3 or a 4. I can personally speak to this. I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer and Graves' disease, and I had a complete thyroidectomy. I, of course, was put on thyroid hormone supplementation and really had to figure out the importance of not just watching a TSH, but my overall function. This has allowed me to truly understand the signs of an overactive and underactive thyroid, what that feels like, and help my patients navigate their own care. So here's what to do. Next time you go to your provider, don't accept that they're only ordering a TSH. Ask them, can you please add on a T4, T3, TPO antibodies, reverse T3, and thyroglobulin? This would be a very detailed workup of your thyroid, and we should be able to put and connect the dots to make sure that your chronic fatigue is not coming from an underactive thyroid. The reason most people are stuck in this cycle of fatigue is because they've not figured out the true root cause of their exhaustion. So what's the next step? I want you to sit down tonight and write down all of your symptoms and when they started. When you go to your provider, I want you to be specific on each symptom, how long they've been going on. And this is things like you can't sleep, depression, lack of motivation, hitting the wall at 3 p.m., certain food cravings, gut issues. That's a big one that can correlate to thyroid function. So I want you to be very specific so you're well equipped for that next doctor's appointment. Once you've had a comprehensive workup, now we're looking at hormones, vitamin D, thyroid function, and we're able to put this whole picture together. And instead of throwing darts in the dark, we know exactly the cause, and we can get you on the track of overall optimizing your health and wellness. I want you to do something that's going to take 10 minutes tonight. Open up your phones and write in your notes each symptom, how long they've been going on, and write down all the blood work that you would like to be seen done, including your thyroid, vitamin D, all your hormone levels. And tomorrow morning, wake up and make that appointment. If your provider is unwilling to have this conversation, then that might be an eye-opening that you might need to find a doctor that's going to validate your concerns and do the proper tests. Your fatigue is not a flaw or laziness. Once you sit down and look at your symptoms and identify the cause, you might be surprised how quickly you can start feeling better when you are treating the correct reason. If this video hit home, make sure you hit subscribe and go watch the video of the 5 top things women over 40 need to know. This dives a little bit more deeply into hormone imbalances. So check it out, and I'll see you next time.